Before we begin our exploration into the hidden patterns of the Quran, here's a special gift for you. On your screen now, you'll see a cat head with a QR code inside. Simply scan the QR code with your phone to instantly download our exclusive book on the mathematical wonders of the Quran. This book will guide you deeper into the secrets and symmetries we'll uncover together in this video. Take a moment to scan the code and let's embark on this fascinating journey of discovery, one pattern at a time. When we open the Quran, we don't just find stories, guidance, and commands, but also verses that touch our hearts and minds. The Quran is an endless source of inspiration and guidance to explore. But behind the beauty of these words, a secret language is hidden, the language of numbers. Every number in the Quran carries deep meaning and wisdom, showing an order impossible for ordinary humans to create. This universe is full of mathematical precision, from the movement of planets to the unique shape of a snowflake. So, why wouldn't Allah's final revelation have the same beauty and precision? The Quran is a miracle, not just in its language, but also in its structure and numbers. At this point in our journey, let's dive into the amazing mathematical symmetry in the Quran. For example, Surah 89, Surah Al-Fajr, is the sum of 8 and 9, which is 17. The first surah has 7 verses, known as Mathani, and the 7th surah is also called Matani. Interestingly, Surah 1 has 7 verses and 29 words, forming the number 29. Famous number in the world of mathematics. Look at this symmetry. 7, 9, 21 is 89 multiplied by itself, and if we rearrange 8, 92, we find a pattern that reminds us of 289, which is 17 times 17. These changes and logical steps, where 17 plus 17 becomes 34, and 3 plus 4 brings us back to 7, return us to the idea of Mathani. These number patterns show a deeper layer of structure and meaning in the Quran. Every number, every arrangement, and every symmetry is part of a miracle that invites us to think and reflect. This is not just a study, but a spiritual journey to draw closer to Allah with an open heart and mind. Let's continue this journey together, exploring the beauty and secrets of numbers in the Quran, and understanding the wisdom behind the hidden mathematical symmetry in the divine revelation. Let's look closely at Surah Al-Fajr, which is the 89th chapter of the Quran. It's called the Dawn. Dawn is like a sign of hope after dark times, and this chapter teaches us deep truths. It tells stories about strong nations that rose and fell, like Ad, Thamud, and Pharaoh. It reminds us that power in this world doesn't last forever. This chapter starts with promises, by the dawn, by the 10 nights, and by the even and the odd. Surah Al-Fajr is chapter 89, which is an odd number. In the Quran, things rarely happen by chance. The main part of what we're looking into is verse 3, by the even and the odd. Our journey into Surah Al-Fajr is just starting. Let's look closely at verse 3. Wash Shaf'i wal Witr. Shaf means the even, the pair. Witr means the odd, the unique. In Islam, Witr refers to Allah's oneness. He is Al-Witr, the one with no partner. By swearing by the even and the odd, Allah shows a very important truth. Everything made comes in pairs, but the maker is only one. Every pair, like night and day, or male and female, points to the single, unique creator. The verse is simple, but very deep. The even points to the odd, the things made point to the maker. This is what Tawheed is all about. Why mention even before odd? Some wise people say it shows our journey. We start with things that come in pairs, and by thinking about them, we find the one. This verse becomes like a map for thinking deeply about spiritual things. It's like a special glass to see the Quran and the world, everything in pairs, except Allah. The two parts are not equal. The Witr is where it all starts, and the Shaf is how it shows up. These two words sum up the main idea of Islamic belief. Every time this surah is read, it reminds us of this truth. The way the verse is built and what it means are closely connected. The numbers and words together point to a higher truth. This is not just about religious ideas. It's a call to think about the Creator by looking at what He has made. Let's see how the numbers themselves show this message even more. Let's do some simple math. Surah 89, which is an odd number, and verse 3, which is also an odd number. When you add an odd number to another odd number, you always get an even number. That's a basic rule in math. So, when we add these two odd numbers, we get an even total. This is like what the verse says. Two odd things, Witr, come together to make an even thing, Shaf. The numbers themselves show what the words mean. The surah number and the verse number match up, just like the verse talks about things coming in pairs. This is a hidden clue found in how the Quran is put together. The numbers show the even part, while the words talk about the odd part. It's more than just a clever trick. It shows a deeper spiritual truth. We as people try our best to connect with Allah, who is the One. Our prayers and acts of worship help us bridge the gap between what is odd and what is even. The Witr prayer, which has an odd number of units, finishes our evening prayers. The way things are arranged in Surah Al-Fajr is like this spiritual idea. It's like a dance between being alone and being in a pair, between humans and God. The way numbers and meaning work together is on purpose. The way the Quran is put together is just as amazing as its message. Odd and even are not just numbers, they are symbols of how we relate to Allah. Let's see where this pattern takes us next. Now let's add 89 and 3. The result is 92, an even number. Is 92 important? Yes. Surah 92 is Al-Layl, the night. Like Al-Fajr, Al-Layl starts with promises. By the night, by the day, by the male and the female. The main idea is pairs. Night and day, male and female. The total of the surah and verse about the even, and the odd points to a surah about two sides of things. Surah Al-Layl talks about two kinds of people, two paths, two results. The whole surah is built on the idea of pairs. The math answer of 89 plus 3 is shown by what's in Surah 92. The number 92 is a link, a bridge between surahs. The promise in Surah 89 verse 3 is repeated in Surah 92. The Quran is like a web of connected ideas, not just a list of chapters. Verses and chapters talk to each other in quiet, deep ways. The number 92 connects ideas of pairing and two sides of things throughout the Quran. This isn't by chance, it's a sign of God's plan. The way the Quran is put together makes us want to find these connections. The way Surah 89 and 92 connect shows how balanced the Quran is. Balance is a sign of smart planning. Everything fits together well. The way the Quran is put together is amazingly balanced, not just in its words, but in how it's set up. A ring composition or mirror setup is common. The start matches the end, all leading to a main idea. Surah Al-Baqarah is a well-known example of this. The link between Surah 89 and 92 is like a bigger version of this balance. The Quran, with its 114 chapters, is balanced around a middle point. Ideas in the first half are like a mirror image in the second half. The connection between these chapters is just one example of this grand plan. God has put clues all through the book, showing how all its parts fit together. Finding these connections makes us respect the Quran even more. The way the Quran is built is as amazing as its message. Every pattern is a hint for those who think deeply. Now, let's look at the Surah Muqatta'at. These are chapters that start with mysterious letters. There are exactly 29 of them. That's an odd number. A Witr. This isn't just by chance. It's a planned part of how the Quran is put together. These surahs are special, set apart by the letters they start with. The number 29 shows how important odd numbers are in the Quran's design. Odd and even, standing alone and in pairs. These ideas are woven throughout the Quran's design. The Muqatta'at surahs add another layer to the Quran's amazing pattern. Allah uses numbers to build His message in ways we are just starting to figure out. Let's put it all together. Chapter Al-Fajr, verse 3. The sum of 89 and 3. Chapter Al-Layl and the 29 Muqatta'at. Chapters all show a pattern. The Witr prayer, done with an odd number of prayer units, is a daily reminder. Allah is one and He likes odd numbers. Our prayers go from pairs to odd numbers, just like the Quran's messages. The number patterns are not secret messages, but they confirm the meaning. They show that God wrote it, and they speak to our love for order and good design. The Quran fits together amazingly well. Nothing is random, everything is connected. The promise in one chapter is connected to the main idea of another. What we do in prayer shows what we believe. The Quran is like a whole world to explore, full of amazing things and connections. Every new thing we find gives us another reason to be amazed by its writer. Why do we look at these patterns? It's not just to convince people who don't believe, but to make our own faith stronger and fill us with wonder. The Quran is a living, amazing miracle in its words, its spirit, and its numbers. These patterns are like road signs, not the final stop. The real goal is to meet the king inside the palace, not just look at the designs on the wall. They make us humble, reminding us how much Allah knows. Every part, Surah 89, the odd and even numbers, the total of 92, the balance, the 29 special surahs, is an invitation to look closer. Allah asks, "Don't they think about the Quran?" This is our chance to think deeply. We don't find things that don't match, but instead, everything works together. Words, beliefs, and numbers are all connected. The numbers make our minds curious, but their main goal is to make our hearts soft. May Allah open our hearts to the amazing things in His book, making it a light and a source of faith in our lives. Interpretation of Surah Al-Fajr, numerical patterns in the Quran, and the Witr prayer. A deep reflection. Introduction. Surah Al-Fajr, the 89th surah of the Quran, is a Makki surah containing 30 verses, full of spiritual lessons and guidance for Muslims. In this blog entry, we will delve into the interpretation of Surah Al-Fajr, focusing on verse 3, which states, "By the even and the odd, wash shafi wal witr." We will also explore numerical patterns in the Quran, particularly with regard to the numbers 89, 3, 92, and 29, and their relationship to the concepts of symmetry and Muqatta'at, mysterious letters. Finally, we will discuss the Witr prayer, which is closely related to this verse as an important spiritual practice in Islam. 1. Interpretation of Surah Al-Fajr, meaning and context. Surah Al-Fajr, which means dawn, begins with Allah's oath on natural and spiritual phenomena. Dawn, the 10 nights, the odd and even, and the night as it passes. These oaths emphasize the majesty of Allah's creation and direct our attention to the historical and moral lessons contained in this surah. Focus on verse 3, Wash Shafi wal Witr. The third verse of Surah Al-Fajr reads, "By the even and the odd," Surah Al-Fajr 89:3. In classical interpretations such as Tafsir Ibn Kathir and Tafsir al-Jalalain, Shaf, even, and Witr, odd, are interpreted in various ways. Literal meaning. Shaf refers to something that comes in pairs, or even, like Allah's creation, which often comes in pairs. For example, day and night, male and female. Witr refers to something odd, symbolic of the oneness of Allah, Al-Wahid, who has no partner. Contextual. According to some scholars, Shaf and Witr can refer to prayers. The Witr prayer, for example, is an odd prayer performed with an odd number of rak'ahs, 1, 3, 5, etc., while other prayers such as Maghrib, 3 rak'ahs, or other sunnah prayers can have an even or odd number depending on the context. Symbolic. This verse can also refer to the balance in God's creation, where everything is created harmoniously, whether in even, balanced, or odd, unique and singular forms. According to Tafsir al-Qutubi, Witr can also refer to the number of days in the Hajj month or the number of rak'ahs in certain prayers, while Shaf can refer to pairs in creation, like animals or humans. This verse invites us to reflect on the greatness of Allah, which is evident in the balance of His creation. Surah Al-Fajr as a whole reminds people about the consequences of arrogance and the wickedness of past civilizations like Ad, Thamud, and Pharaoh, and calls us to return to obedience to Allah. Verse 3, by mentioning Shaf and Witr, reminds us of the oneness of Allah and the importance of maintaining spiritual balance in life. 1. Numerical patterns in the Quran. 89, 3, 92, and 29. In the Quran, numbers often have symbolic meanings and are sometimes analyzed to find hidden patterns or wisdom. You mentioned the numbers 89, the number of Surah Al-Fajr, 3, the third verse, 92, the sum of 89 plus 3, and 29, possibly referring to Symmetry or Surah Al-Ankabut. Let's explore these relationships. Numbers 89 and 3. Surah Al-Fajr is the 89th surah with 30 verses. The third verse mentions Shaf and Witr, which directly relate to the concept of odd and even. The addition of 89 plus 3 equals 92 may refer to another surah, namely Surah Al-Layl, the 92nd surah, which is also a Makkan surah with 21 verses. Surah Al-Layl discusses the theme of contrast between good and evil, which aligns with the theme of balance in Surah Al-Fajr. Numbers 92 and 29. The number 92, when reversed, becomes 29, which refers to Surah Al-Ankabut, the 29th surah. This surah discusses the trials of faith, such as the story of Prophet Ibrahim and the challenges faced by early Muslims. The symmetry between 92 and 29 can be seen as a reflection of balance in the Quran, where these numbers may indicate thematic or structural relationships. In addition, there are 29 surahs in the Quran that begin with Muqatta'at letters, mysterious letters like Alif Lam Mim or Yasin. Although Surah Al-Fajr does not contain Muqatta'at, this number 29 may indicate a broader numerical pattern in the structure of the Quran. Numerical meaning. In Islamic tradition, odd numbers like 3, 5, 7 are considered special because they reflect the oneness of Allah. The number 3 in verse 3 of Surah Al-Fajr can be seen as symbolic of 3 important aspects: faith, deeds, and character. Meanwhile, the numbers 92, even, and 29, odd, can represent the balance between worldly and otherworldly matters, as emphasized in both Surah Al-Fajr and Al-Ankabut. These numerical patterns, though speculative, remind us that the Quran is a book full of wonders, including in its structure and numbers. For example, the total number of surahs in the Quran, 114, is an even number, but many Islamic practices, such as Witr prayer, emphasize odd numbers, reflecting the oneness of Allah. 1. Witr prayer, a special odd practice. Witr prayer is a voluntary prayer performed with an odd number of rak'ahs, usually 1, 3, or more. It is often performed after the Isha prayer and is considered a highly recommended practice by Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Here are important details about the Witr prayer. Ruling. Witr prayer is a sunnah mu'akkada, a highly emphasized sunnah. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, The Witr prayer is a right, priority. So whoever does not perform Witr is not from us. Hadith narrated by Abu Dawood. Number of rak'ahs, usually performed with 3 rak'ahs, but can also be 1, 5 or more, as long as it's odd. Popular methods of performance include 3 rak'ahs with the first 2 rak'ahs followed by a salam, then 1 separate rak'ah. 3 consecutive rak'ahs with 1 salam, similar to the Maghrib prayer, but ending with the Qunut supplication. Qunut supplication. The Qunut supplication is recited in the last rak'ah of the Witr prayer, asking for protection and forgiveness from Allah. Example of Qunut supplication. Allahumma ihdini fiman hadait, wa afini fiman afait. O Allah, guide me among those whom you have guided. Time. Performed after the Isha prayer until before dawn. The most excellent time is in the last third of the night, when Allah descends to the lowest heaven to receive His servants' supplications. The Witr prayer reflects the concept of Witr, odd, in verse 3 of Surah Al-Fajr, as it emphasizes the oneness of Allah through the odd number of rak'ahs. It is a way to conclude night prayers with gratitude and reliance on Allah. Conclusion. Surah Al-Fajr, with the verse Wash Shafi wal Witr, reminds us of the balance of Allah's creation and His oneness. Numerical patterns like 89, 3, 92, and 29 show the wonder of the Quran's structure, although numerical interpretations need deeper study to understand their meaning. The Witr prayer, on the other hand, is a practice that connects us to the spiritual meaning of this verse, inviting us to reflect on the oneness of Allah through odd numbers. May this reflection bring us closer to the Quran and strengthen our practices, especially through the Witr prayer. If you have further insights or questions about this interpretation or numerical patterns in the Quran, please share them in the comments section. Interpretation of Surah Al-Fajr, numerical patterns in the Quran, and the Witr prayer. A deep study introduction. Surah Al-Fajr, the 89th surah, is a Makan surah with 30 verses, rich in spiritual meaning and historical lessons. In this blog entry, we will explore the interpretation of Surah Al-Fajr, with an emphasis on verse 3, Wash Shafi wal Witr, while delving into complex numerical patterns as stated, 89, 17, 7, 29, 17, 29, 7, 9, 21, and their connection to Surah Al-Fatiha, Surah 1, as well as the concept of Matani. We will also discuss the Witr prayer, which is closely related to this verse, as a practice that reflects the oneness of Allah. With an approach based on knowledge and reflection, let's delve into the wonders of the Quran through interpretation and numbers. 1. Interpretation of Surah Al-Fajr, meaning and context. Surah Al-Fajr begins with Allah's oath on dawn, the 10 nights, the even and the odd, Wash Shafi wal Witr, and the night as it passes. These oaths highlight the greatness of Allah's creation and direct us to lessons about the consequences of negligent civilizations such as Ad, Thamud and Pharaoh. Focus on verse 3, Wash Shafi wal Witr. The third verse reads, By the even and the odd. Surah Al-Fajr 89:3. According to classical interpretations, Ibn Kathir, Shaf, even, refers to paired creations, such as the heavens and the earth, while Witr, odd, refers to the oneness of Allah or odd numbers in practices like the Witr prayer. Al-Jalalain. This verse may refer to prayers where Shaf is a prayer with an even number of rak'ahs, like Duhr, and Witr is an odd prayer like Witr. Al-Qutubi. Witr can refer to odd numbers on specific days, for example, the days of Hajj, while Shaf indicates the balance of creation. This verse invites us to reflect on the balance and oneness in Allah's creation, which is also reflected in the Witr prayer, as will be discussed later. 1. Numerical patterns in the Quran. Analysis of 89, 17, 7, 29, 17, 29, 7, 9, 21. The The Quran is often analyzed for numerical patterns that reflect the wonder of its structure. You mentioned several numbers and mathematical operations. 89, Surah Al-Fajr, 8 plus 9 equals 17, the connection to Surah 1, Al-Fatiha, which has 7 verses, Mathani, 29 words, 1729, 7921, 892, 892, 289, 17 and logical transformations like 17 plus 17 equals 34 equals 3 plus 4 equals 7. Let's explore this in detail. Numbers 89 and 1789 equals 8 plus 9 equals 17. Surah Al-Fajr is the 89th surah. If its digits are added, 8 plus 9, the result is 17. The number 17 is interesting because it is a prime number and appears in Islamic contexts, such as the 17 rak'ahs of daily obligatory prayers. 2 Fajr plus 4 Duhur plus 4 Asr plus 3 Maghrib plus 4 Isha. Connection to Surah 1, Al-Fatiha. Surah Al-Fatiha, the first surah, has 7 verses and is often called al-Kitab, mother of the book, or Mathani, that which is repeated. You mentioned Surah 1 has 7 verses, Matan equals Surah 7 Matani. The term Mathani refers to Al-Fatiha because it is repeated in every rak'ah of prayer. Surah 7, Al-Araf, also has a thematic connection to Al-Fatiha as it discusses creation and guidance, but the Matani connection might refer to the interpretation of Mathani as something repeated or paired. Numbers 29 and 1729, 29 words. You mentioned 29 words, which might refer to the number of words in Al-Fatiha. According to some calculations, Al-Fatiha contains 29 words in the Arabic text, depending on the counting method. The number 29 is also significant because there are 29 surahs that begin with Muqatta'at letters, although Surah Al-Fajr is not among them. 1729. This number might result from numerical manipulation, such as 17 plus 29 equals 493, but there is no direct connection to 1729 in the Quran. However, 1729 is an interesting number in mathematics. Hardy-Ramanujan number, sum of 2 cubes, 13 plus 123, 93 plus 103. In this context, it might be symbolic, referring to symmetry or numerical uniqueness. Symmetry 7921. You mentioned 7921 equals 892 x 892 is arrangement 289 equals 17 or 17. Let's break it down. 892 equals 7921, which is mathematically correct. 892 might be a reference to 892 or a typo because 892 79221. Arrangement 289 equals 17 plus 17. 17 plus 17 is 289, which is also correct. 2 and 89 reversed becomes 982, but there is no direct connection to 7921. This might refer to the symmetry of numbers or transformations. Symmetry 7921 could refer to the fact that 7921 is a perfect square, 892, showing mathematical balance. Logical transformation, 17 plus 17 equals 34, equals 3 plus 4 equals 7. You mentioned 17 plus 17, 34 is 3 plus 4 equals 7 Mathani. This shows a logical or numerical operation. 17 plus 17 equals 34. 34 is broken down into 3 plus 4 equals 7, which returns to the number of verses in Al-Fatiha. 7 verses. This reflects the concept of Mathani, because Al-Fatiha is a repeated surah and is considered the essence of the Quran. The number 7 is significant in Islam. 7 verses of Al-Fatiha, 7 heavens, 7 circumambulations. The relationship between 17 from 8 plus 9 and 7 might indicate a repeating pattern, where these numbers connect Surah Al-Fajr with Al-Fatiha through Mathani. Symbolic meaning. These numerical patterns, though speculative, reflect the wonder of the Quran. The numbers 7, verses of Al-Fatiha, and 17 daily obligatory rak'ahs are fundamental to Islamic practice. The number 29 words in Al-Fatiha or surahs with Muqatta'at, and 89 Surah Al-Fajr show the balance between Makkan and Medinan surahs, as well as themes of oneness and balance. Transformations like 892 equals 7921 and 17 equals 289 might symbolize the symmetrical structure of the Quran, where odd and even numbers like Shaf and Witr reflect the harmony of Allah's creation. 1. Witr prayer, symbol of Allah's oneness. The Witr prayer is a highly emphasized voluntary prayer performed with an odd number of rak'ahs, in line with the verse Wash-Shafi wal-Witr in Surah Al-Fajr. Here are further details. Ruling and importance. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, emphasized the importance of the Witr prayer, saying, "Make the Witr prayer the last of your night prayers." Hadith narrated by Bukhari. Witr reflects the oneness of Allah through odd numbers. Number of rak'ahs, usually 3 rak'ahs, but can be 1, 5 or more. Examples of performance: 2 rak'ahs plus 1 rak'ah with separate salams. 3 consecutive rak'ahs with the kunut supplication in the last rak'ah. Kunut, supplication, recited in the last rak'ah, asking for guidance, forgiveness and protection. Example: Allahumma ihdini fiman hadait. Time: after Isha until before Fajr, with the best time being in the last third of the night. The Witr prayer connects us to verse 3 of Surah Al-Fajr, as it emphasizes the concept of Witr, odd, as a symbol of Allah's oneness, unlike creations that often come in pairs. Shaf. Conclusion. Surah Al-Fajr, through the verse Wash-Shafi wal-Witr, invites us to reflect on the balance of Allah's creation and His oneness. Numerical patterns such as 89, 8 plus 9 equals 17, 7 verses of Al-Fatiha, 29 words or Muqatta'at surahs, and transformations like 892 equals 7921 and 17 equals 289 show the wonder of the Quran's structure. Although these numerical interpretations are speculative, they remind us of the precision and harmony of this holy book. The Witr prayer, on the other hand, is a practical act that reflects the meaning of Witr in this verse, strengthening our connection with Allah. May this study bring us closer to the Quran and motivate us to perform the Witr prayer with full awareness. If you wish to share your views or ask for further clarification, please leave a comment. Interpretation of Surah Al-Fajr, numerical patterns in the Quran, and the Witr prayer. A deep study introduction. Surah Al-Fajr, the 89th surah, is a Makkan surah with 30 verses, full of spiritual and historical lessons. In this blog entry, we will delve into the interpretation of Surah Al-Fajr, especially verse 3, Wash-Shafi wal-Witr, while exploring complex numerical patterns as stated, numbers related to 28 Arabic letters, 14 Muqatta'at letters, and connections to other surahs like Surah Al-Fatiha, Surah 1, Ar-Ra'd, Surah 13, and Luqman, Surah 31. We will also discuss the Witr prayer, which is closely related to the concept of Witr, odd, in this verse. With a knowledge-based approach, let's explore the wonders of the Quran through interpretation, numbers, and spiritual practices. 1. Interpretation of Surah Al-Fajr. Meaning and context. Surah Al-Fajr begins with Allah's oath on natural and spiritual phenomena: dawn, the 10 nights, the even and the odd, Wash, Shafi, wal-Witr, and the night as it passes. These oaths highlight the greatness of Allah's creation and direct us to lessons about negligent civilizations such as Ad, Thamud, and Pharaoh. Focus on verse 3, Wash Shafi wal Witr. The third verse reads, "By the even and the odd, Surah Al-Fajr 89-3. According to classical interpretations, Ibn Kathir, Shaf, even, refers to paired creations, for example the heavens and the earth, while Witr, odd, refers to the oneness of Allah or odd numbers in practices like the Witr prayer. Al-Jalalain, this verse may refer to prayers with Shaf as an even prayer, like Duhr, and Witr as an odd prayer, like Witr. Al-Qurtubi, Witr can refer to odd numbers on Hajj days, while Shaf reflects the balance of creation. This verse invites us to reflect on the balance of Allah's creation and His oneness, which is also reflected in the Witr prayer, as will be discussed later. 1. Numerical patterns in the Quran. Analysis of 28, 14, 5, 94, 49, 13, 43, 31, 34, and previous numbers. The Quran is often analyzed for numerical patterns that show the wonder of its structure. You mentioned several numbers and mathematical operations. 28 Arabic letters. 28, 2, its 14 Muqatta'at letters. 1 plus 4 equals 5, referring to letters in Surah 19 or 42. 89 plus 5 equals 94. 94. Reversed becomes 49. 4 plus 9 equals 13. Surah Ar-Ra'd, 43 verses, and Symmetry with Surah 31, Luqman, 34 verses. You also referred to previous numbers like 89, 8 plus 9 equals 17, 7 verses of Al-Fatiha, 29, 1729, 7921, 892, and 17 or 17 equals to 289. Let's explore this in detail. 28 Arabic letters and 14 Muqatta'at letters. 28 Arabic letters. The Quran is written in the Arabic alphabet, which contains 28 letters. You mentioned half of 28 il 14, which refers to 14 unique letters used in Muqatta'at combinations. Mysterious letters like Alif Lam Mim Yasin. These letters are Alif, Lam, Mim, Sad, Ra, Kaf, Ha, Ya, Ain, Ta, Sin, Ha, Kaf, and Nun. 14, it's 1 plus 4, it's 5. You stated 1 plus 4, it's 5, which might refer to 5 letters in certain Muqatta'at, such as Kaf Ha Ya Ain Sad in Surah Maryam 19:1. This shows a focus on the numerical structure of these letters. Connection to Surah Al-Fajr 89. 89 plus 5 equals 94. By adding 5 from 1 plus 4 to 89, the number of Surah Al-Fajr, we get 94. The number 94, when reversed, becomes 49, and 4 plus 9 equals 13, which refers to Surah Ar-Ra'd, the 13th Surah with 43 verses. Symmetry and Surah 31. You mentioned 13 equals symmetry of Surah 31 has 34 verses. Surah 31, Luqman, has 34 verses, and 34 reversed becomes 43, which matches the number of verses in Surah Ar-Ra'd. This shows a pattern of symmetry between surah numbers and verses, reflecting balance in the Quran's structure. 94 and 49. The numbers 94, 89 plus 5, and 49, 94 reversed, show a pattern of symmetry. Although 49 is not a surah number, 4 plus 9 equals 13 connects back to Surah Ar-Ra'd, strengthening the idea of numerical balance. Connection to previous numbers. 89 equals 8 plus 9 equals 17. As mentioned before, 89, Surah Al-Fajr, yields 17, which relates to the 17 rakahs of daily obligatory prayers. The number 17 also appears in 17 equals 289, which you referred to as an arrangement in the previous context. 7 and Mathani. Surah Al-Fatiha, Surah 1, has 7 verses and is known as Sab'an min al-Mathani, 7 repeated verses, Surah Al-Hijr 1587. You referred to mathan and matani, which might refer to the concept of repetition or pairing in the Quran. 29 and 1729. The number 29, words in Al-Fatiha, or 29 surahs with Muqatta'at, and 1729, perhaps symbolic, like the Hadi Ramanujan number, continue to show complex numerical patterns. 7 to 921 equals 892. The square of 89 yields 7 to 921, which you connected to symmetry. 7 921 reversed becomes 1297, but there is no direct surah connection. This reflects the mathematical wonder in these numbers. 17 plus 17 equals 34, else 3 plus 4 equals 7. This operation connects back to the 7 verses of Al-Fatiha and the 34 verses of Surah Luqman, showing thematic and numerical connections. Symbolic meaning. This numerical pattern reflects the structural magic of the Quran. The numbers 28, Arabic letters, and 14, Muqatta'at letters, show the balance between the entire alphabet and the mysterious selected letters. The numbers 5, Kaf Ha Ya Ain Sad, 13, Surah Ar-Ra'd, and 31, Surah Luqman, illustrate the relationship between the surahs through the number of verses, 43 and 34, which are symmetrical. Odd numbers such as 5, 13, and 17 parallel the concept of Witr in Surah Al-Fajr, while even numbers such as 28 and 34 reflect Shaf. Transformations such as 94, 49, 13 show mathematical harmony that may reflect the divine precision of the Quran. 1. Witr prayer, symbol of the oneness of Allah. Witr prayer is a voluntary prayer performed with an odd number of rak'ahs in line with Witr in verse 3 of Surah Al-Fajr. Here are more details. Ruling. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, "The Witr prayer is a rite, so whoever does not perform Witr is not from us." Hadith narrated by Abu Dawud. This shows its importance. Number of rak'ats. Usually 3 rak'ats, but can be 1, 5 or more, as long as they are odd. Methods of execution include 2 rak'ahs plus 1 rak'ah with separate greetings, 3 consecutive rak'ahs with the kunut prayer in the last rak'ah. Kunut prayer, recited in the last rak'ah, asking for guidance and protection. Example, Allahumma ihdini fiman hadait. Time, after Isha until before Fajr, with the best time being in the last third of the night. The Witr prayer reflects the oneness of Allah through odd numbers, in line with the verse Wash-Shafi wal Witr, and invites us to draw closer to Him through nightly practices. Conclusion. Surah Al-Fajr, through the verses Wash-Shafi wal Witr, reminds us of the balance of Allah's creation and His oneness. Numerical patterns such as 28, Arabic letters, 14, Muqatta'at letters, 5, Kaf Ha Ya Ain Sad, 94, 89 plus 5, 49, 13, Surah Ar-Ra'd, and 31, Surah Luqman, show the miracle of the structure of the Quran, with symmetries such as 43 and 34 verses reflecting divine precision. Witr prayer, on the other hand, connects us to the meaning of Witr, strengthening faith through odd practices. Hopefully, this study will enrich our understanding of the Quran and motivate us to practice the Witr prayer. Please share your views or questions in the comments section.